The day of their return to Eloria came quickly. Lyra and Ethan rode back on the starship Unity. Lyra watched the world grow larger below as they descended. She felt a mix of nerves and hope. Ethan stood beside her, his hand lightly touching hers. When the ship landed in the palace courtyard, a small crowd gathered. Guards and servants stood at attention. Queen Muriel and King Darren waited with the council elders. Lord Terran stood apart, his face unreadable. Lyra took a deep breath and stepped off the gangway. Ethan followed. The queen smiled warmly, but with worry in her eyes. "Welcome home," the queen said. "The council is ready," Lyra nodded. She and Ethan walked past the rows of guards and guests. Lyra held her head high, feeling stronger than before. They entered the grand hall again. This time the banners were quiet and the music was low. The head elder called for attention. "Princess Lyra, you have spent 10 days away. You may now give your final decision." Lyra looked at the council. She saw faces full of doubt and hope. She looked at Ethan, who stood respectfully beside her. Lyra spoke clearly. "I have seen 2 worlds. I have learned who I am, and I have learned about Ethan. I know my heart." She paused, then faced the queen. "I choose my own path. I will not marry Lord Terran. Instead, I will work with Ethan to build a true alliance between our peoples." The hall was silent. Some gasped. Lord Terran's eyes narrowed. The queen closed her hand around Lyra's. The head elder spoke slowly. "The princess has made her choice. This choice breaks tradition, but may start a new era of peace. We accept her decision." A murmur of agreement rose. Some elder bowed. Others exchanged looks. Lord Terran stepped forward, anger in his eyes. He bowed stiffly. "Princess, I respect your choice." "May the alliance succeed?" Lyra nodded. Ethan bowed too, then rose. He looked at Lyra and smiled. Queen Muriel placed her hand on Lyra's shoulder. "You have courage, my daughter." "King." Darren stepped forward. "Let us celebrate a new future." The music changed to a joyful tune. Guests stood and cheered. Lyra felt tears in her eyes. She looked at Ethan and took his hand. He smiled warmly. That evening, a feast was held in the palace. Foods from Eloria and Earth filled long tables. Aliens and humans sat side by side. Lyra walked among the guests, greeting them. She felt free and happy. Ethan joined her with a glass of bright red wine. "You did it," he whispered. Lyra raised her glass. "To the future." They clinked glasses. The hall filled with laughter and music. After the feast, Lyra and Ethan walked on the palace balcony. The twin suns had set, and stars shone in the sky. Lyra leaned on the railing. "I never imagined life could feel like this." Ethan wrapped his arm around her. "You changed everything with your words," Lyra smiled. "And you stood by me." They stood quietly, watching the city lights below. Lyra thought about the days of doubt and fear. She thought about the moment she saw Ethan in the crowd and how everything changed. She turned to him. "Thank you for being brave and kind." Ethan took her hand. "Thank you for trusting me." They stood together under the stars. Lyra knew challenges would come, but she felt ready. She had chosen her heart, and she had chosen a partner in Ethan. In the days that followed, Lyra began her work. She traveled with Ethan to Earth and to other worlds, starting talks and visits. She listened to people's needs and shared her own. She used her voice to build bridges, not just treaties. Years later, stories would tell of the alien princess who stopped her wedding for love and changed the course of history. In those stories, Lyra would be remembered not just as a princess, but as a leader who followed her heart and united worlds. But tonight, she stood here with Ethan, looking at Eloria's sky, content and hopeful for what tomorrow would bring. As the starship Unity landed at Earth's space station, Lyra felt a mixture of fear and wonder. Beneath her, fields of silver domes and towers glowed with soft light. Ethan helped her out of the ship. She looked up at the strange shapes of the buildings and took a deep breath. A young officer greeted them. "Welcome to Earth, Princess." She bowed slightly. Lyra nodded and followed Ethan down the gangway. The station's gardens were full of green trees and bright flowers. Humans and aliens walked together, speaking in many languages. Lyra's eyes widened. She had never seen so many different people in one place. A driver waited by a hover car. Ethan introduced Lyra to a woman named Maria who would drive them to the human city. Lyra sat in the back seat, holding the soft seat belt. Ethan sat beside her. During the drive, Maria pointed out landmarks through the glass roof. "That's the Crystal Forest," she said, "and over there is the floating market." Lyra smiled, amazed. When they reached the city, Lyra saw tall buildings of glass and metal. Lights blinked on the sides of the roads. People moved quickly, some in cars, some on foot. Earlier, Ethan had arranged for them to meet his friend, Officer Jason. Jason was a tall human with a friendly smile. He led them to a small museum about Earth's history. Inside, Lyra watched paintings of mountains, oceans, and deserts. She touched a model of Earth's moon. "It is beautiful," she said softly. Ethan watched her. He could see how much she cared about seeing his home. Later, Jason took them to a busy market. Stalls sold fruits, spices, and crafts. Lyra tasted sweet fruit she had never seen before. She laughed when juice dripped on her hand. Ethan bought her a small carved bird as a gift. Lyra held it close. As the sun set, they visited a park. Families played and music drifted on the breeze. Lyra sat on the grass and watched children run. She felt peaceful. Ethan sat beside her. "Do you like Earth?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "I never knew it would be so alive." A group of humans and aliens approached, curious about the princess. Lyra stood and bowed. She spoke a few words in their language. They smiled and bowed back. Ethan felt proud of her. That evening, Lyra and Ethan returned to the station. Lug looked at the stars above. "Thank you," she said to Ethan, "for showing me this world." Evening turned to night, and the station lights shone. Lyra felt more confident. She knew her heart was opening. But she also knew time was short. She would soon return to Eloria and face her council. She held the carved bird and made a promise. "I will choose my own future," she whispered. As she drifted to sleep, Lyra dreamed of Earth's sky and Ethan's smile. A few hours later, the palace bells rang, calling everyone to gather in the main hall again. Lyra walked beside her mother and father. Ethan followed, flanked by two guards who watched him closely but did not speak. The hall was not as bright as yesterday. The banners still shone, but the air felt heavy with worry. The head elder sat on his high chair at the front of the hall. He looked serious. Lord Tyran stood nearby, his face cold. Noble guests from many worlds sat on benches, their eyes fixed on the princess. Lyra felt the weight of their stares. She held her head high, but her heart trembled. The head elder spoke. "We are here to hear Princess Lyra's decision." He paused, looking at Lyra. "Your choice will affect alliances and treaties. Speak." "Princess," Lyra stepped forward. Her voice was clear. "I choose to put the wedding on hold until I understand my own heart." Gasps rose from the crowd. Some began to whisper and point. A few shook their heads in anger. Lord Terran frowned. He spoke in a calm voice. "Princess, waiting will last too long. Our worlds need peace now." Lyra looked at him. "Peace given without truth is not peace." She turned to the council. "I request that we postpone the wedding. In the meantime, I will meet with my guard Ethan and learn more about what matters to me." The council members argued among themselves. Some said the princess was foolish, others said she was brave. The queen raised her hand for silence. "The princess has requested time. We will grant her 10 days. During this time, Princess Lyra and Ethan will be under supervision, but may speak freely. On the 10th day, we will reconvene." Lyra bowed her head. "Thank you." The queen signaled for the guards to step back. Ethan breathed a small sigh of relief. After the council meeting, Lyra and Ethan were escorted to a private room in the guest wing. It was simple but comfortable, with large windows overlooking the palace gardens. A low table held fruit and water. The guards stopped at the door but did not block it. Lyra closed the curtains slightly for privacy. Ethan looked around. "This place is grand," Lyra smiled. "It is not as grand as it looks from outside." She moved to a chair by the window. Ethan sat opposite her. They both relaxed a little. Lyra reached for a piece of fruit. We have 10 days, she said. I want to learn about you and about myself. Will you help me? Ethan nodded. I will help however I can, Lyra thought for a moment. I want to see your world. I have lived in this palace all my life. I need to understand the people you fight for and the place you call home. Ethan looked surprised. You want to visit Earth? Lyra nodded. Yes, Ethan smiled. I would be honored to show you. The next morning, Lyra and Ethan prepared for their journey. The Queen allowed them to travel together, with a small guard. As they left the palace, the crowds watched in silence. A few cheered, but most waited to see what would happen. They boarded a sleek spaceship waiting in the courtyard. The symbol of Eloria and the Human Alliance shone on its side. Lyra felt both excitement and fear. She had never left her planet before. Ethan guided her aboard. Welcome to the Starship Unity, Lyra looked around. The ship's interior was clean and bright. Small windows showed the sky. She took a deep breath. Let's go. The ship rose into the sky, leaving the palace behind. Lyra watched the twin suns fade as they climbed higher. She felt a mixture of hope and uncertainty. During the flight, Ethan showed Lyra the deck where he lived and the control room. He explained how the ship worked and how people from different worlds lived together on board. Lyra listened, fascinated by the machines and the teamwork needed to keep the ship running. At dinner in the ship's common area, Lyra met other crew members. A human engineer named Mark showed her the engines. A pilot named Sarah explained navigation. They welcomed her kindly and shared stories of their travels. Lyra realized that beyond the palace, there was a whole world of people working together. She saw humans and aliens laughing and talking. She felt a spark of understanding. Maybe peace could work if people truly cared for each other. Later, Lyra and Ethan stood by a window, looking at the stars. Thank you, Lyra said softly. I feel like I am learning who I am, Ethan smiled. I'm glad to help. Lyra looked at the stars and whispered, everything is changing. The next day they would arrive on Earth. Lyra did not know what she would find, but she was ready to learn and to choose her own path. The next morning, the sun rose over the palace, painting the white walls with gold and pink light. Lyra did not sleep much that night. She kept thinking about everything that had happened. She looked out her window and watched the city wake up. In the garden below, flowers opened and birds with bright wings sang soft songs. Lyra wondered what the people thought of her now. She wondered if her family would forgive her. Most of all, she wondered if Ethan was safe and if he would stay. In the palace after what happened, Lyra dressed simply and walked quietly through the halls. She tried to avoid the busy servants and the guards who seemed more alert than usual. Every person she passed bowed or looked away. Some smiled kindly. Others looked nervous, not sure what to say. Lyra felt the weight of her decision. She did not know what the council would decide, or what her mother and father would say in public. She found a quiet corner in the palace garden. The sky was clear and the air smelled sweet. Lyra sat on a stone bench under a tree, thinking about her time with Ethan in the past. She remembered the forest on that distant world, the fear she felt, and how Ethan made her feel safe. She remembered the way he spoke, simple and honest, and how he never asked for a reward. It felt like a dream now. Suddenly, footsteps came down the path. Lyra looked up and saw Ethan. He walked carefully, unsure if he was allowed to be there. A guard followed at a distance, watching both of them. Ethan bowed politely. Princess Lyra, I hope I am not disturbing you. Lyra shook her head. No. Please sit with me. Ethan sat down beside her, still keeping a respectful distance. For a moment neither spoke. The birds sang in the trees and the wind moved through the leaves. Ethan broke the silence. I wanted to say thank you for what you said in front of everyone. I was afraid I might get in trouble or that I would make things worse for you. Lyra smiled softly. You did nothing wrong. You helped me and I never forgot. I could not lie to myself or to my people. Ethan nodded. I think about those days a lot. I never imagined you were a princess. I just wanted to help someone in need. Lyra's eyes grew sad. It was the first time I felt truly seen for who I am, not just a royal name. With you, I could be myself. Ethan looked down, unsure what to say. My life is simple. I do not have riches or power. I only wanted to do what was right. Lyra reached out and gently touched his hand. That is why I remembered you. For a few minutes, they just sat quietly together, listening to the sounds of the morning. Lyra felt a calm she had not known in a long time. She knew the peace could not last, but she was glad for it. Soon, footsteps approached again. This time, it was the Queen and King, along with 2 elders from the council. The guards stayed back as the small group joined Lyra and Ethan under the tree. Queen Muriel spoke first. Her voice was gentle but firm. Lyra, we need to talk. The council is meeting soon and many people want answers. What you choose will affect not only your life, but the lives of many? Lyra nodded. She stood up and Ethan stood as well. I am ready to speak the truth. The Queen looked at Ethan. You will come too. The council must hear your side. They walked together through the gardens and back inside the palace. The council chamber was grand, with high windows and a long table where the elders sat. There were noble guests, military leaders, and a few humans from the diplomatic mission. Lord Taran was there, his eyes cold but polite. The head elder spoke. Princess Lyra, yesterday you stopped your wedding. The people are confused. The alliance with Lord Taran's house is important to our future. Explain your reasons. Lyra stood before everyone, her hands shaking a little. She took a breath. I do not wish to marry without speaking to Ethan. He saved my life in the past, and I need to understand my own heart before I make such an important choice. One elder frowned. This alliance was carefully planned. If you do not marry Lord Taran, there may be anger and even threats of war. Lyra nodded. I know what is at risk. But if I am forced to marry, the peace will not last. I must be honest with myself and with our people. Another elder turned to Ethan. What do you say, soldier? Ethan stood tall. I never meant to cause trouble. I did not know she was the princess when I helped her. I only wanted to do what was right. Lord Taran stood up. This is all very touching, but feelings do not keep the peace. We need strong alliances. The human soldier should go home, and the princess should keep her promise. Lyra looked at Taran, sadness in her eyes. A promise made with fear and lies is no promise at all. We need more than duty to keep us strong. The council began to argue, some siding with Taran, some with Lyra. The queen raised her hand. Enough, we will take a short break. During the break, Lyra and Ethan stood by a window. Lyra looked out over the city. I am afraid, Ethan, but I cannot turn away from the truth. Ethan gently touched her shoulder. You are brave. You showed everyone that today. Soon the council called everyone back. The head elder announced, we will not decide now. The princess has until sunset to make her choice. The human soldier will remain under watch, but he is not a prisoner. Lyra and Ethan were led out of the hall. The guards watched carefully but did not separate them. Lyra felt tired but determined. She asked Ethan to walk with her in the gardens again. They talked about simple things, childhood memories, dreams, and wishes for the future. For a little while, Lyra felt almost happy. Later that day, Lyra met her mother in a private room. The queen's face was soft with worry. My daughter, do you love Ethan? Lyra hesitated, then nodded. I care for him more than I can say. The queen took Lyra's hands. Follow your heart, but remember your duty. Sometimes love and duty can become one, but sometimes you must choose. As the sun began to set, Lyra stood at her window, thinking of all the choices before her. She knew she would have to stand before the council one more time and tell them what she had decided. She felt afraid, but she also felt hope. For the first time, her future was her own to choose. The grand hall stayed silent as the princess and the human soldier stood together. Nobody had seen anything like this before. Lyra's words seemed to echo across the palace. The air was tense. The musicians stopped playing, unsure what to do. Guests from faraway worlds watched closely, whispering to each other in many languages. Queen Muriel's face was calm, but her eyes were full of worry. She stepped down from her throne and came closer to her daughter. She spoke quietly, so only, Lyra and Ethan could hear. Lyra, everyone is waiting. This is your wedding day. If there is a reason for this, you must explain it to us. Lyra looked down for a moment. She could feel her mother's disappointment, but she could not ignore the feeling in her heart. She took a slow breath and looked up at the Queen. Mother, I know what I'm supposed to do. But I can't marry Lord Taran without first speaking with Ethan. He is not a stranger to me. A few guests gasped, hearing her words. Some of the council elders exchanged worried looks. Lord Taran tried to stay calm, but it was clear he was hurt. Your Highness, what does this human mean to you? He asked. Lyra turned to face him. He once saved my life. Long ago, on a mission I had to keep secret. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be standing here now. Queen Muriel listened carefully. She saw the honesty in Lyra's eyes. She did not answer right away. Instead, she looked at the guards and spoke. We will move to a private chamber. Lyra, you and this soldier will come with me. Taran, wait here. The rest of you, please stay where you are. The guards cleared a path through the crowd. The Queen walked ahead, her robe trailing behind her. Lyra and Ethan followed. The guests watched as they left the hall. The huge doors closed with a quiet thud, shutting out the noise of the crowd. Inside a smaller, quieter room, the Queen sat in a tall chair. Lyra and Ethan stood before her. For a moment nobody spoke. Lyra felt nervous, but she knew she had to speak the truth. The Queen's voice was soft but strong. Tell me everything, she said, from the beginning. Lyra nodded. She told the story of a trip she had made to a border world where a rebellion was growing. She had gone in disguise, hoping to help her people and learn the truth for herself. Things had gone wrong, and she was trapped by rebels. It was Ethan, a young soldier on his first mission, who found her. He risked his life to lead her to safety. They traveled together for days, hiding and running until they reached safety. Lyra explained how Ethan never knew she was a princess until the very end. He was brave, and he was kind. I owe him my life, Lyra finished. Queen Muriel listened closely. When Lyra was done, she turned to Ethan. And you, soldier, what do you have to say? Ethan stood tall but spoke simply. I didn't know who she was. I just wanted to help. I thought about her many times after that, but I never expected to see her again. The Queen's eyes softened. She saw that Ethan spoke the truth. Still, there was much at stake. Lyra, do you wish to end your wedding for this man? She asked. Lyra was quiet for a moment. I just want to talk to him. I need to know how I feel, and I need to know he is safe. I can't marry anyone unless I am sure of my own heart. The Queen nodded, understanding. You may speak with him alone, but know that the people are waiting. Do not take too long. The Queen left the room, leaving the two alone. For the first time in years, Lyra and Ethan were together without danger or lies. Ethan let out a nervous laugh. I never thought we'd meet again like this. Lyra smiled, a little shy. I didn't either. But when I saw you, I remembered everything. I never forgot what you did for me. Ethan looked down. I'm just a soldier, Lyra. You're a princess. Your life is so different from mine. Lyra shook her head. You saved me because you are good. That matters more than titles. For a while, they talked about old times, how they ran through the forests, how they slept under the stars, how they worked together to stay safe. Lyra told Ethan that she felt trapped in her royal life and that she missed being free. Ethan admitted. He had always wanted to see her again, but never thought he could. There was a sadness in his eyes, but also hope. A knock at the door interrupted their quiet moment. The Queen entered, this time with Lyra's father, King Darren. He looked worried and serious. Lyra, we must return to the hall. The guests are growing restless. If you do not wish to marry Taran, you must say so clearly. The whole kingdom will be watching. Lyra felt the pressure return, but she stood up straighter. I am not ready to marry Taran. I must follow my heart, even if it is difficult. King Darren frowned, but saw his daughter's resolve. We will stand by you, but you must be sure of what you want. Lyra nodded. She and Ethan followed the king and queen back toward the great hall. As they walked, Lyra felt a mixture of fear and relief. For the first time, she had spoken honestly about what she wanted. She glanced at Ethan, who walked quietly by her side. They reached the doors. The music had started again, but it was quiet and unsure. The guards opened the doors, and Lyra stepped inside, Ethan a few steps behind her. The guests looked at her with curiosity, some with anger, some with hope. Lyra faced the guests and spoke clearly. "I cannot marry today. I must find my own path." Some people shouted in protest. Others began to talk among themselves. The elders looked at the queen, waiting for her decision. The queen stood and raised her hand for silence. "The princess has spoken. There will be no wedding today. We will discuss this matter further." The hall emptied slowly, guests whispering as they left. Lyra felt tired but also free. Ethan was taken back to his post by the guards, but not as a prisoner. The queen and king spoke quietly with Lyra. They wanted what was best for her, but they also worried about the future of their people. That night, Lyra looked out her window at the stars. She wondered what would come next, but she felt a sense of peace she had not known before. She knew the next day would bring more questions and more hard choices, but she was ready to face them, no longer just as a princess, but as herself. On the shining world of Eloria, the palace sparkled under the twin suns. Bright banners floated in the air, and the wide halls were filled with music and color. People from many worlds gathered for the wedding of Princess Lyra, daughter of Queen Miriel. The royal guard stood along the walls, wearing blue and silver armor, watching the guests as they talked and smiled. Lyra was the center of everything. She wore a dress of pale blue silk, decorated with silver patterns that shimmered with every step she took. Her eyes were calm, but inside she felt heavy, as if a great stone pressed on her chest. She stood behind tall doors waiting for her cue. Her mother, the queen, gently fixed her daughter's hair, whispering a few last words of advice. Lyra nodded, not trusting herself to speak. All her life she had been trained for this moment. She was not just a daughter or a princess. She was the hope of her people, the one who would join her house to another great family and bring peace to their world. That was what everyone said, again and again. Lyra wanted peace, of course, but she wanted to feel free as well. The music changed. The doors opened slowly. Lyra lifted her chin and walked out. Hundreds of eyes turned to her as she moved down the long path, flower petals falling around her. She saw people she knew and people she did not know. Some guests wore strange clothes, and some even had strange shapes, some tall and thin, some short and covered with scales. All had come to see the princess marry. Lyra did not look at the crowd for long. She focused on her steps, one after another. Her heart beat loudly. On the raised platform at the end of the hall stood her future husband, Lord Taran. He was handsome, with dark hair and serious eyes. He was from one of the most powerful families in the stars. He waited for her, holding out his hand. Lyra was supposed to be happy, but she felt nothing but cold fear. She wanted to run, but her feet kept moving forward. Suddenly Lyra looked up. She searched the crowd, her eyes drawn by a feeling she could not explain. Near the back of the room, close to the great pillars, stood a group of human soldiers. They wore black uniforms, part of a diplomatic mission from Earth. Most people ignored them. But Lyra's eyes caught one of them, a young man with brown hair and kind eyes. His name was Ethan. He was not famous or noble, just a soldier assigned to keep the peace during the royal wedding. The moment Lyra saw Ethan, she stopped walking. Her breath caught in her throat. She stared at him, her mind racing with memories she had hidden deep inside. Ethan's eyes widened in surprise as he met her gaze. The music faltered as everyone realized the princess had stopped. Voices started to whisper around the hall. Some guests stood up to see what was wrong. Queen Miriel frowned, confused. Lord Taran looked upset. Lyra tried to take another step, but she could not move. She remembered the time she had met Ethan, long ago. She remembered how he had saved her life during a dangerous mission when no one else knew who she was. He had been brave and gentle, and she had never forgotten him. Now, seeing him in the crowd, she felt something inside her break free. Lyra took a shaky breath. She turned away from the path and faced the queen and her guests. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. I can't do this. Not right now. The hall filled with noise. People gasped and muttered. Some tried to understand what was happening, while others grew angry. Lord Tyrant stepped forward, trying to calm the situation. Lyra, please, he said softly. Everyone is watching. But... Lyra shook her head. I need a moment, she said. She looked at Ethan, hoping he understood. Guards moved closer, unsure if they should protect the princess or take her away. The queen raised her hand, calling for silence. Lyra, what is wrong? This is your duty. Lyra's hands shook. She could barely find her voice. Mother, I need to speak to someone, she said quietly. The queen followed her gaze and saw Ethan. The queen's eyes narrowed, worried that something was wrong with the human soldier. Guards, bring him forward, she ordered. Ethan hesitated, looking at his commander. But the guards were gentle as they guided him to the front. He stood beside Lyra, unsure what to do. The hall grew silent again. The princess and the soldier stood together, watched by everyone in the palace. Lyra took a step closer to Ethan. You saved my life once, she said so only he could hear. I never forgot. Ethan blushed, remembering the day he had met her, not knowing she was a princess. He nodded. I'm just glad you are safe, he whispered back. The queen watched them, puzzled and a little afraid. She could see that something important was happening. Lord Tyrant looked hurt and confused. The guests talked among themselves, not sure what to expect. Lyra stood tall, her fear slowly turning to strength. She looked at her mother, then at Ethan, then at the crowd. I cannot marry without speaking to him first, she said in a clear voice. The guards tensed, waiting for orders. The queen did not know what to do. The wedding had stopped, and everyone waited to see what would happen next. In that moment, everything changed for Lyra. She did not know what the future would hold, but she knew she could not go back to the life she had lived before. She felt hope for the first time in many years.